I'm Nicola Talent and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts. It's kind of an odd one, I suppose, for us to be discussing here on Crime World because we're usually talking about the sins of the underworld. But in this case, we're talking about the sins of the overworld and the overlords, really, in RTE. Look, there's no suggestion, certainly as of yet, that any crime has been committed by anybody involved in the paying and the signing off of Ryan Tubridy's salary. But there has already been certain calls within the Dail and under Dail privilege, things have been said, which would suggest that some believe that this should possibly involve a Garda investigation. It's unlikely it ever will. And there's been some ludicrous stuff said as well about Dee Forbes being dragged in by the Gardaí to answer questions from her sickbed.
Well, I think Matty McGrath said Putin wouldn't get away with what ye did. So that was probably certainly hyperbole, to say the least, you know. But I mean, I think it is like there have been calls. Willie O'Dea also said Gardaí should be called in to investigate the legality of what occurred, saying company law states that annual accounts must reflect the reality of what was paid in and what was paid out. However, realistically, it isn't probably a matter for the justice system. What you have instead is I suppose practices that spark public anger without reaching a criminal bar.
Public accounts would be protected, essentially. I mean, the taxpayers' money is protected under rules and regulations about how it's spent and how it's,
I mean, I think the issue is that Ryan Tubridy was paid a certain amount, which he's entitled to pay, and RTE are entitled to pay it. Yeah. Really, what the issue is that they weren't disclosing this to the public, and certainly were brought before a Dail committee, the heads of RTE, and didn't disclosed the wrong figure. Now that doesn't the fact that RTE paid him in a sort of unique and deceptive way, let's be realistic, but it was mostly to deceive the politicians and the public. It doesn't amount to fraudulent payment.
No, I don't think that's up for debate, and certainly at the moment. And let's face it, it's Thursday afternoon. This story is changing all the time, and the Oireachtas Committee is ongoing live at the moment. So by the time we get out of here, there could be new revelations. But there's accountability here because it is RTE. It is funded by us, the licence fee. Obviously, they take in advertising as well, which is quite a rare scenario when you compare it to the likes of the BBC, who get public funding, but that's it, no more advertising. So there's an ownership there. There's supposedly a pride in this product that is created. So when the top star is paid X amount of money, which is released every year, as you know, a couple of years later, the top 10 stars get released their wages. So we all know what they're earning. That is part and parcel of working for RTE. They're not staff. Most of them are contractors. They've set up their own companies to be paid. So there's lots of ways that this works. The problem is, and there is nothing criminally wrong with what has happened by any of the parties as we know it. It is so morally wrong, though, what has happened from some parties. There's definitely, this is going to stick, unfortunately. This isn't going away. This is a massive shift change for RTE. You can see it with their stars, some of their biggest names. They all kind of decided to divulge everything about their paychecks, which is a very personal thing. But obviously they know they're part of the RTE stable, so they're almost getting really super defensive about their own situation, not about the company. You notice the comments were all about their own remuneration package. Some of them explained the different parts to it. I know Claire Burns was slightly broken down
first
because she's got the different show. She pulled out of the TV show. She still got the radio show, but then she had this extra quiz show that was added in. So she felt the need to almost overshare the minutiae of her contract. So we now know more details than we probably ever have about these individuals' paychecks, because like 10 days ago, Ryan Tubridy was swanning off, had just left the Late, was on top of this kind of wave of affection people had felt for him because he was leaving the show after 14 years. And it all came crumbling down because the Grant Thornton investigation divulged how his remuneration package wasn't what it seemed. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's deceptive to say you earn 450. Now, whether you believe he deserves 450 or not, or 420, whatever that's not, it's not, the begrudgery thing is a bit annoying because Irish people are so.
But I think it's
full
in
of
the
begrudgery.
ether anyway, because it's always in the ether. Every year when those figures are released,
Yeah.
everybody has a conversation about
a
it.
poke and a
And,
go, yeah.
you're like, what the hell are we paying them that for?
Yeah, even RTE said it themselves. Like, they're competing against themselves. I mean, the idea that
Is it Emma O'Kelly is leading? I mean, she's doing an absolutely brilliant sterling job. But yes, they did. And she pointed out that a couple of years ago, they suggested that there a cap be put on these salaries. And the fact of the matter is, who are they? Who's coming into
that? It's just begrudgery.
I don't think Virgin Media is going to pay them that kind of salaries, I can tell you.
They are not going to, like, the idea is just begrudgery. Like, it may well be begrudgery. People hate other people having loads of money, but it's not just begrudgery. They're competing. Even they are saying they're just competing against themselves. Like Ryan Tubridy, or anybody else, they're not going to get that from any of their competitors,
of course
domestically, and they're not well-known names abroad that
Not
they would
at
get
all.
it.
But I remember the argument, though, that is pulling in sponsors. Having that name on the show is pulling in advertising to justify the wages. And like
I don't think it's the name on the show. I mean, the show was the Late Late Show, wasn't
The show goes up
Ryan
and down.
Tubridy's show.
It's going down the same as all media.
Well, we all know that, but as we were looking into before we came on, like I think Pat peaked at 930,000 for the same show.
Yeah.
I think Ryan's top one was
735.
735.
Look, we're
so-
all in the same boat as regards that in media. I mean, the fact of the matter is media is going through some sort of a weird revolution when, everybody is trying to work out how to get back. Television's been hit by the streaming services and and the newspaper product has been hit by the online product. So we're all sort of in that boat. We're all coming down figures wise.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Digital's
the
gone
idea
back
that,
up, but-
they had to pay Ryan Tubridy or they couldn't get anybody to bring in the ads. I mean, it's just absolutely nonsensical if you ask me. I mean, it's the show drags the people in.
But he doesn't. He, like, when
And
he
the
won.
slot.
And the
Sorry,
slot,
but the slot, absolutely. It's the most important slot on television and has always been there. And the history of it, the Late Late Show. I mean, in the end of the day, what happened when we all ended up getting stuck in the house and you couldn't go to the pub on a Friday night?
Started watching the Late Late Show.
Oh my God, this is still on. Wow, I'm going to watch this.
The idea that like 20% of the advertisers would have dropped off if they didn't have Ryan Tubridy there. I mean, it's the reality is that they just paid the money because they were either too craven to fight against it or just that's just the way RTE worked. And
I'd like your man Noel Kelly to represent me, I can tell you.
Well,
You're not the only one. He's going to do well out of
I
this, I think.
know. I mean, my goodness, he seems to be like this sort of golden boy. I mean, who is he? Sorry, who is he?
Well, we've a small pool of celebrities here, as you know, and we've an even smaller pool of agents. He is, he'd be our top celebrity agent. There's no doubt about
it's
it.
mostly with RTE, is it?
A lot of his stars, well, actually, I mean, he has been known through the years. Like, I'm 22 years here now, so I've been dealing with him for that length of time. And not all of his stars are what you would consider the A-listers. There's no doubt about it. So he's not just cherry picking the biggest and best names. So it helps that he has some of the big names, and I think he's hinged a lot of his success on the fact that he has the Ryan Tubridys of the world. And I remember he did a big magazine shoot about 10, 15 years ago, and they were all kind of standing around him. It was kind of all... It was a little bit nauseating because it was supposed to be about the stars, but he made it about himself, and I think he's got a bit of there's obviously ego in this as well. So he is Ireland's premier agent at the moment anyway, no doubt about it.
He gets a cut of every penny.
He
that's
negotiates everything
negotiated.
for them. This is the weird thing.
He gets a percentage of that.
Yeah. Even the wages, I think. Like, it's an absurd deal that he gets with these
Why
people.
are RTE having to deal with agents, though? I mean,
Why would somebody like Ryan Tubridy need an agent to deal with one person being RTE? It's not like he's out there trying to,
it's part of the whole way that they've tried to employ people on contracts as sole traders or, Ryan Tubridy, I think, and others. They're set up as companies that they get. So, they're not getting a wage from RTE.
No, they're not.
So
It's an annual fee. And
So he'll get his 20%.
But
or
I mean,
10%.
why have RTE allowed that to go on?
But that's going back decades.
But why though?
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I don't understand the business side of it and why, but it obviously makes sense to them to have this. I'm sure for tax purposes, it makes sense to the stars to be trading as their own company and not to be a staffer. They're obviously pulling in more at the end of the day. But like, I mean, Ryan's not the only one. They all do it. They've all got their own limited companies. They're all doing tax returns.
But they're not all doing it now. It's
not all of them.
It's
Sorry,
only the high earners.
But there are others there like who are doing it.
Oh, yeah, there are. But I mean, it's.
You see, they would have other earnings as well. I mean, they would charge an amount for an appearance to do an after lunch speech or to do PA thing. And I mean, some of them can charge 7,000-8,000. I mean, you'd be absolutely astounded what these people charge to stand up and speak for half an hour after a lunch. Like, it's unbelievable. It's obscene, actually.
And those bits are definitely booked in by the agent.
Those bits are booked in by the agent. And I mean, you can sort of understand that they've an agent, that they don't have to be,
calls
and having the embarrassing conversations with people. But their actual main contract, which essentially, whether it's coming into a company or not, it's their main job. Like, why can they not negotiate that themselves? I mean, they've been in this game long enough.
It's like footballers; they don't do it as well. Like,
but footballers. I tell you the difference between footballers. Like, if you're Lionel Messi and you want to, you'll have 2 or 3 clubs bidding for you, and the clubs will be bidding against each other.
Yeah.
So RTE are bidding against themselves for people that can go nowhere.
Yeah.
And they're still not doing a good deal.
And they're doing that on behalf of us, the taxpayer. And this is really why I think there's been so much outrage out there, and why we're discussing this on Crime World, even though, as we say, it's not a crime. It is almost a crime against morality, the whole thing. Or that's the certain sense that it feels out there in the community that everybody is discussing this and shocked. And I tell you, I can't believe Ryan Tubridy's found himself in the middle of it. I mean, the golden boy.
Yeah, you see, this is the thing. Like,
and on a personal level, I do feel sorry for him, actually, because he's a nice fella. It's just like...
Yeah.
He has gone from
national treasure,
absolutely, and that must be devastating. I mean,
my kids adore him. They couldn't believe it. He was leaving because they know him for one show a year. Like, he's got that appeal. Like,
he
there's
does,
no doubt
but
about
it must be devastating to go from that business of being loved everywhere he goes. I'm sure it's not as if the public have essentially turned against him, but I'm sure he feels that way. I mean, celebrity is like being dead every day because everybody loves you and tells you they love you and tells you how wonderful you are.
Tough at the top, though. Like, he came off Twitter very early on into his late show gig because of the abuse he was getting. But I mean, it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't a bit for these people. Like, and you have any opinion and you're just pounced on, and we know that from social media, and that's inevitable. But
there are people though, Daragh, who
is that not what they're getting paid for, though, in a way, with those big fees?
There are people that are on social media and they love it. They love, like, Ricky Gervais or somebody like that. Like,
the pylons, he wants it.
So there's other people that are sensitive.
I get
that are in
that.
the public eye,
and
they really don't like it.
Yeah.
Ryan Tubridy never liked his personal life infringed upon in any way, shape or form by the media, and he really, really wanted to earn that top salary and to go out and do what he chose as regards charity events and stand and pose photographs and all. He didn't want any more than that, and he demanded and commanded that, plus the big salary, because I think part of that big salary has to be seen as losing a little bit of your privacy.
Which but not enough.
You do have to remunerate somebody for losing some of their privacy on a day-to-day level, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like people are entitled to a private life and all that. Like, it's not to say that it's right or wrong, Daragh. It's just there is an inevitability about being in the public eye that will, Ryan Tubridy, forget about the newspapers, forget about social media. If he walks down the street, he's not going to walk down the street the same as an ordinary person. So there's a degree of privacy that goes with being high profile, and that's whether that's right or wrong.
No, I get that.
That's a fact, and I think the this must be devastating for him and for people like Dee Forbes and all of that. I mean, this is not to say, however, like, it is an absolute shambolic mess for RTE.
You can say shit show.
Well, it is a shit show, and the reason
no, please, sir.
The reason it's so bad for them is that there's a few things there in the Oireachtas committee when they're discussing this 75 grand payment now that everybody knows about it, right? This is how many days into the scandal? When did it come out? It's
Monday,
a week and a half, you know, a couple of weeks into it, right? Whatever way you look at it. And the RTE Chief Financial Officer, Richard Collins, is saying Noel Kelly put in this invoice for consultancy services to RTE. And he was asked, did you ask what the consultancy services, and this is the guy in charge of the finances, and he said, oh, I was told it was Noel Kelly gave RTE consultancy about how to handle stars during the COVID lockdown. And so he just said, oh, yeah, 75 grand, off you go. So like, even that's all those days into the scandal. And they're still dripping it out there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because that is kind of as deep in the concern about it, really. I mean, that's a false...
Well, it's not that, no, I don't know if it's criminally, but it's what it is.
It's a false corporate
I mean, there's
invoice, yeah?
No, I don't know if it amounts to false accounting, but what it amounts to is that it shows that there's deception about what the source of the money has been there from the very beginning. This isn't something that happened by accident, and of course there was reported that they'd said don't, in any of the invoices, don't include what it's for and all of that.
But is that not okay in the private industry, but just not okay in...
Well, it's not a public...
with the public funds.
Well, is it a public... I mean, it's not exactly a public body either. Like, it's what it is a publicly funded body,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
it doesn't have quite the same...
Well, the dual funding thing is the difference.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it's not the state as such.
Yeah, so
it
wouldn't have the same kind of, I suppose, as
yeah, I mean,
schools are...
No, if you FOI, RTE, they have to give you something. For example, freedom of information requests. They don't have to give you everything. They have a, they are a publicly funded body. They're overseen by the Oireachtas.
But they don't have to be totally open and totally...
No, they're not. They're not a state body either as such.
Yeah.
So, but look, it's
all of it sounds like something that, look, I mean, we in the media industry and the Sunday World over the years know there's so many of those deals happen.
Yeah.
Like all the time. It's a corporate deal. A car company, gives someone a car, they get some advertising.
Yeah.
Everybody's kept happy. Yeah. Or, you get a car to give away or something back in the day.
Yeah.
They would have run those competitions and they'd get free advertising or something like that.
But who are the Sunday World answerable to?
Oh, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the private industry, so it doesn't matter. I mean,
except to
speaking of the car industry, the motor industry still operates. Is that right, Daragh?
It does, yeah. It does, as far as I know. Yeah, in my world, it does.
Yeah,
but I mean,
But all of that is just, we slag one another off by things like that, but it is just perfectly fine.
Yeah, because
it's an accepted part of business.
Well, it's accepted. If it's who owns the Sunday World. That's who it has to be.
Oh no, but in general, it's an accepted part of business. But it's different when you apply it to RTE.
So that's the problem with RTE. Then is they've dripped this out.
Yeah.
And the other problem is, of course, and let's be realistic, like the media who report on it, the media love it. I mean, particularly the broadsheet newspapers. It's a perfect scandal for them because it involves well-known celebrities. There's just enough public interest to justify a kind of a huge focus on it.
It's like it's
a scandal without. It's not salacious though. And there's no it's not like affairs and stuff like that.
No.
It's a business scandal at the top.
But it's also like
public money.
With the public
which is nothing. Certainly, we cannot be in a position to judge that. We're not judging that's how media. But it's a perfect scandal.
we have judged in the past, and all media organisations in this country, including Virgin Media, ourselves in Media House, the Irish Times, everybody else. No other media organisation gets public funding.
No.
And there has been, issues with RTE, running their website and all that sort of thing. And what exactly are they getting the public money, vast amounts of public money for?
Yeah.
And we, other, regional newspapers in particular at the moment are under huge threat. They're hugely important in their communities, in their local areas, hugely important parts of society. They're not getting public funding to keep going and to give people massive salaries.
No, I mean, so that's where, in a way, we come from, and it has to be declared that you're looking at it and going,
you have a little bit of a bit of a beef with it, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy to think that only a few weeks ago there was talk of increasing the TV licence fee, and that's what RTE have been pushing for years. And they had this whole big plan to justify it. There is no way in hell that it's happening now, unless you change, first of all, the TV licence system, where at least it's divvied up on a pro rata basis, whether like it's Virgin or Sky Ireland, or if you're employing people here, you're producing TV content here, maybe you should get a divvy up based on the most up-to-date or accurate figures of viewership or something like that. It can't just be lob all the money at RTE if they're able to sell advertising as well. It's just so unfair. It's been unfair for as long as I can remember. So the idea that they wanted to increase it, that's gone now. I mean, they say there's 16 million in unclaimed TV licence fees a year. It's going to be a lot more next year, I think, after the last week or two. I think a lot of people are really, really pissed off, and if they were on the fence about paying for a TV licence before, they certainly are now.
I wonder if a lot of that is going to come before the courts, because definitely, you've seen people refusing to pay for their water and all those sort of protests that grew up around that. But I mean, the licence is another kind of bill we have to pay, but I suppose I won't put any ideas into
No, I mean, it's a kind of a free, like these things, stories like, to see people, they're brought into those Oireachtas committees and they look shell-shocked, and it's tough for the people in the middle of it. But I think the thing,
they always look tricky though, don't they? Because they're so, did you see the picture of them going in as well? They just so don't want to be there, so they're all like,
it's like Reservoir Dogs.
You have to try
really
hard to smile for the cameras, don't you? Because none of us actually like.
They're so afraid to say the wrong thing, though. You can kind of see them taking a breath every time they're asked something. I'd say in every other walk of life, they are egos, they're smug because they're top dogs in RTE. They'll probably talk down to a lot of the people who are in the organisation. But right this week, when they were in front of that committee, they were hit like a freight train, and they were like, okay, just give the exact minimum number of words I need to answer to get me over into the next question. They were just locked out completely, and some of the comments from them didn't seem to answer the questions, and it led to so much grandstanding from the politicians.
But look, the politicians wouldn't necessarily all cover themselves in glory either, because
some did.
Well, Matty McGrath was a little bit outrageous. What did he have to say?
Well, he
was the one who said about
Putin wouldn't get away with it, which of course.
And he wanted, of course, Dee Forbes to be dragged in by the Gardai and to be made answer. Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
No.
The Gardai aren't actually employed to drag people anywhere.
No.
Start.
Well, there is, of course, and politicians would probably, Matthew McGrath would not be a fan of RTE. Like, he wouldn't be a fan of a certain type of Dee Forbes
that's true.
type. And in terms of the media, Matthew McGrath has, regularly falls on the wrong side of the RTE's values, which I think he'd say himself in terms of his issues to do with maybe pro-life and things like that. So he's on. So there are people lining up and to take aim at people who are taking aim at them, and that's kind of unfortunate for RTE, because let's be realistic about the good bits of RTE as well. And I know there's always, if it's like it's become a kind of a thing. You have to mention the hardworking staff of RTE. It's like Matthew Mackin not involved in crime. Like, you have to mention the hardworking staff, but there are hardworking staff, and if you look at some of the things that RTE have done, in terms of say the Katrina Carey mortgage issues, that program is a really top quality program, and various programs like that. I'm not going to list them all off, but RTE, we do need a public service broadcaster that's strong and that has the ability to bring some stories into light. But you have to look at then is RTE, is it fit for purpose in the 21st century? And people will pay, probably content happily enough, a license fee, but we're not paying a license fee to give some DJ 500 grand a year to do a
Well, it seems like they're in the ideal position that they don't really have to tell us what's going on.
No.
They don't really have to disclose their accounts.
No.
And yet they get €160 off each of us a year to pay.
And they're producing less and less programs. I mean, let's be realistic. So is the license fee going to support the bureaucracy that exists there? I mean, they haven't made the cuts that the other media have had to make, as they have made certainly cuts.
In certain areas, I think they have like, we would say ourselves in certain areas that they are operating on, very little
Shoestring, yeah.
shoestring.
In terms of their news content.
And then in other areas, they seem to be very heavy. I mean, people I would know that work within it would say there's this huge amount of middle management existing. And it's just literally top heavy with those. Now, how many of those people are on over 100 grand? Is that our business?
Well, I mean,
Is it our business?
Well, I mean, according to the
helping to
Oireachtas committee, it is our business, and they want it published. How many everybody who earns over 100 grand?
I'd say we'll be absolutely shocked by that.
Yeah.
And there will be people that, you know what I mean, if you could actually had the ability to kind of get into the nitty gritty of it, there would certainly be a lot of people within that thing maybe that didn't have a clear role.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, and I know this for a fact, that the people coming in at the bottom level, the journalists, the young journalists, they're not being paid
No.
huge,
Not at
or
all.
anything like it. They're not being given job security, and you have to say, is the license fee and all that public money going to support that kind of middle?
Well, it's not
Layer.
clear. And that's what that has been answered in the last 2 weeks. And one of the biggest things of the last couple of weeks was Emma O'Kelly standing up at that spontaneous protest. Because I think that was a bigger moment for me anyway, because just to see the numbers that turned up and the anger, I was kind of
And Orla
surprised.
O'Donnell was there out
she
front and centre.
kind of surprised at their level of shock. I almost thought that everyone knows that a few of them are on the kickbacks and they make more money than us. We just have to put up with it. That's RTE. They clearly were as shocked as we were reading these allegations.
When you do talk to RTE reporters as well, they do, and which probably everybody in the media industry has seen, where they're coming under pressure in terms of having the backup. In terms of cameramen,
100%,
all of that stuff, they're having to file. You see Orla O'Donnell flying out of court, don't you, during the Regency, because she has to file again and again and again.
And
not
they're so spread thin, like I mean, she's trying to cover everything and constantly stressed out, and that's not good. And absolutely,
then
trying to get cameramen and whatever else down.
And somebody's getting, what is it, 500,000 of 400 grand sort of extra payments or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
That's one of the reasons I don't see Ryan returning from this, not anytime soon. I can't see him going back. And as I said, I don't think...
It's hard to see it calm down now, isn't it? Just at this moment in time, like where
every
we're
news
at.
cycle, we're right at the peak. I kind of think there's more to come. And I think that I just can't... I genuinely thought up until I saw Emma O'Kelly and the staff standing outside Montrose protesting, I thought he'd be back.
Was he going to walk past that, or how?
You can't now. You can't have him wandering around the canteen with everyone. Like, he's become the poster boy of the other side of what RTE are managing to do and how they're managing their funds. I can't see his return.
And in a way, like the fact that, yes, it's drip feed, etc., the whole thing, but in a way, for him, that there isn't already 10 or 15 others that were also, and that he was suddenly sort of beginning to sort of float back in the kind of the crowd. There is no crowd for the moment. There is just...
Well, I don't actually never met Ryan Tubridy, unlike probably both of you who've come across him various times, but I do hope he has another... This isn't sort of... you know, I don't think that's...
It's not a cancelable offence.
I don't think so. Like, I just think it's... you know, and it's
hard to see what's going to happen for him now.
And I think there is a degree of redemption is allowed for people that are, you know, in the public eye. I think there is a period of time.
Time heals it, definitely. There's no doubt.
I think the difficulty is that people have to then kind of fight their way back a bit.
Yeah.
And that can be hard for some people. Some people can brazen it. And, you know, but I think, you know...
Tell us what you thought he should have done, because Niall has actually missed his proper place in life, which would be a Noel Kelly type, an advisor, somebody who
needs to be an agony aunt.
He loves the agony aunt stuff. He loves a little bit of, you know, the psychology, sort of working out our problems. But his PR, his press relations, is his corporate press relations. So go for it.
This is what I would have done if I was Ryan Tubridy, right? As soon as that broke, I would have done every single possible interview that I was asked to do.
Arnie Vinnick from the West Wing. That's what you're talking about.
Now, not print interviews.
Yeah.
I would have done LMFM, Southeast Radio. No offence to them. I would have done every single interview. I would have tried to do 20 or 30 interviews in the space of 2 days. And what I would have said was, which I think is the most reasonable explanation, I probably knew it. I knew the figures were published were a bit off. I'm just one of them people that just doesn't like discussing my money in public. I probably should have said something. I was just embarrassed I don't like talking about money. And I would have blasted it that every single place. And then that would have moved on from him. That might have, people may or may not have accepted that. But it would have got it out there.
It would have been a position of sorts.
It would have
instead
been
of the
possibly, we don't know,
Yeah.
possibly the truth. I mean, he's, and I would have just answered every question.
It would have ended the chase. Like, it would have.
yeah.
Well, it's also like his first statement was really damaging. Where
have
he
that
just,
here,
where he
by the
just
way,
said,
Read that out because I was away for that.
Well, it was 2 Thursdays ago now at this stage. Like many people, I'm surprised by the announcement made by RTE's statement today regarding the errors in the reporting of its accounts. There's a bit in the middle, but the line at the end, I can't shed any light on why RTE treated these payments in the way that they did, nor can I answer for their mistakes in this regard. He's just fobbing it off and almost saying,
Taking no, like, we're usually talking about crime on this, and we're usually talking, well, we often talk about how criminals handle situations or whatever, or how they try to, in particular, one very famous one who tried to handle his own sort of image, and Dail Kinahan, obviously, and we're often talking about what they should do and how they should, and it always comes back to, you have to admit something.
yeah,
You have to sort of admit whether it's, naivety, or you have to admit something. You can't just pass the buck completely. That makes you sort of likable in a way, or maybe just
because in one sense he's 100% right. That's an RTE decision about money. He doesn't get to choose that. That's not his money till it comes into him. Like, RTE made the choices, and he should have. That's what I think he should have done. And you see people do it successfully.
How much would that advice that you've just given the nation be worth if you were actually in a different job?
Well, I don't know. Could go all wrong there.
75,000?
2 cappuccinos.
I'll take barter payments. Don't you worry. No, but I mean, you see, and I'm not comparing Ryan Tubridy to people like Donald Trump, but that is what he does. He just gets out in front of it.
You were going on about Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson does it as well.
Give us a bit of
Boris
that.
Johnson is a great person for apologising, because he doesn't he apologises quite fulsomely for the most part. Now, I know he stopped doing it around the lockdown stuff. He actually took the opposite approach. But before he would sort of apologise, and he'd sound like he meant it, like, I made a mistake, and he just gets out and he just manages to sort of muddy the waters.
Is that the kind of, like, from psychological point of view, you're just trying to get down with the normal people as such? I mean, even if Ryan Tubridy had said, like, I'm really bad talking about, I should have actually asked those questions, but I didn't. I'm sorry.
I would have been won over by that, by the way.
I possibly might have been won over by that as well, because I would be able to connect with that. I don't like talking about money or, things like that, but
also, let's face, like, he's not counting down to his next paycheck, right? He's on a certain level of money where he's not kind of going, is it a 5-week month? Like we joke.
Everything is relative at the same time.
I
like,
totally
what's he going to do if he doesn't work?
He doesn't get a pay
only
slip as
50.
well in the same way that we would. Like, he doesn't, because he's not getting an RTE pay slip every month that kind of divides up his union rates and his PRSI contributions and AVCs and then the net amount at the bottom. He's getting an amount of money possibly funneled solely through Noel Kelly's company because he is the agent. That might have the kickbacks in it. It might not have the kickbacks. There might be other public appearances that he's made that are added in for the March.
He'd still get an amount a month. He has to pay his tax and everything.
So he has that coming in, but it's no two amounts will be the same. Like, it's not like a normal system.
He could have a system that he pays himself a monthly salary out of what he has. You know what I mean? He could do that
company.
Out of his company. Yeah, like a lot of people would do that. But no matter whether it's he's taken it in chunks or he's taken it in a monthly salary, if it stops going in there, if the money stops going in there, like, he's in a position that anybody would be, because everything is relative. You live to your means, most people. And, if you're earning that kind of money that he's been earning, I'm sure he's been able to buy properties
there's no
way
doubt
beyond.
there's worse people off in the world than Ryan Tubridy, no matter what happens with this. But look, I think
fact.
Like, that is the way it is. And, but I mean, like, the other thing is that it must be tough, but you have to say that at the root of it all is a culture that exists in RTE.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, even today, or the other day, one of them was saying about, we're going to have to stop calling them the talent. Like,
You wouldn't be able to stop calling me that.
No.
Oh, you're stuck.
I actually am the talent.
But it's really bizarre though, isn't it? Because they're going around within the company.
Didn't even hear that.
They are going around calling them, some of them, the talent. Oh, we
Is
have
that,
to
not
look
the,
at.
is that not the stars who are on his show? That's how you refer to the guests on...
No. RTE referred to that
To the
select
presenters.
group,
Oh, right.
select group as the talent.
Jesus.
Like as you know.
What would they do if I worked there?
Well, the
What exactly would they do?
talent.
Can you make us a cup of tea there? No?
The Nicola. They call you the Nicola.
They'd have to call me the Nicola, exactly. Or else I'd have everybody looking after me because people would misunderstand what they were
bizarre
saying.
that you'd have that within a company.
That is.
You know, people are talking about the talent as in this exceptional group of creme de la creme, and that's obviously the culture that existed.
TV world is weird, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you know, we did a recent podcast in relation to UTV and Philip Schofield and that, and we sort of delved in a little bit to that world that they live in. It's sort of it's a
bubble.
nod.
It's a bubble that they're in. Yeah, and he's at the top of it, and that's why this is such a big story. That's like you have people.
That culture is the problem, I think, and that you can see that in RTE, and you can see that in other TV companies as well. That culture that elevates.
And do people then start believing their own celebrity, and they actually believe that they are something that's
whatever and that's
untouchable almost?
But that's one thing. But it's when you have middle management protecting that group of people as being some sort of exceptional, irreplaceable group, and that you've seen that across media companies across the world. Different problems that arise, and RTE are just belatedly.
Did they not call us the talent in Media House? Yeah.
Well,
I do.
know.
Yeah, I definitely call you two the talent.
Yeah, well,
talent
like
one and talent two.
When we walk along the
talent one and talent two.
Talent one and talent two.
When we walk around the corridors and stuff, is there not loads of middle management kind of trying to protect us?
With the rose petals in front of you as you walk.
Does that not happen?
Well, it doesn't happen yet, Nicola.
No.
It should do.
Should do. It really would be great if it did. I'd be quite happy. Having said all that, I'd like it for myself.
Yeah,
I'll do that one day, just randomly, okay?
Yeah.
We're willing to sell our souls, just nobody offering to buy it.
I think RTE is going to change, though. I think there's going to be big changes over there. I think that this has been the shock to change it, and do you know what? It's going to come from inside, not the outside pressure. I think the likes of those journalists who were protesting and all the other staff, they're just not going to put up with it anymore. Like it's just too much. As Emma O'Kelly was saying, there's people there who aren't getting their holiday pay or their maternity leave, and they're on 0 contract hours, so that the company has no add-ons to pay them. They literally, if they're being brought in for a couple of hours, you're paid for those few hours and nothing else around it. Like they're manipulating the funds, and as they stood there, they were just thinking, there's this guy who was on such money. I think there's going to be a massive change over there. And there's so many employees, they need to do the cull that Dee Forbes promised at the start of her stint. So now Kevin Backhurst, who is starting next week, he's got a big job, but he's starting at the bottom. Like in a weird way, he's coming in with trust in RTE at an all-time low. So it can only get better for him. Can
it? Or is he taking a poison chalice?
No, I think from his perspective, just from the outside, I don't think he can make it worse than it is right now. Like, and so he is kind of following on from this complete shit show, I'm allowed to say it. And he'll take it forward. And what he does with it, I don't know.
Or, you know, a little bit like the way when the Guards and the whole sense of change came, he was there. Like, I mean, he's part
of it, all right. He is. No, and I get that, yeah, but he's now at the
But I mean, he has an opportunity to make the changes if he so
Wouldn't you love
chooses.
to, though? Like, because, you know, like, I deal with loads of people in different departments over there, and some of them are brilliant, and I have to hold my hand up, but you do hear anecdotally about it being treated like a civil service. You clock in at your whatever 9:30 shift, you're gone at 5, that's it. You get your subsidised food in the canteen, the creches are subsidised, there's parking in D4, there's loads of perks to the job. It all seems to be, the gravy train has to come to an end now, there's no doubt about it. And this is the kind of the straw that's broken the camel's back.
Yeah, well, I think that it's going to be a really difficult process of change, actually, because I think the revenue streams from RTE beyond the license fee are going to keep contracting, and the organisation is going to have to come under a lot of pressure. But I do think that it will be a sea change, definitely, because I think the people that are there are really going to have, it's like any scandal, they're going to always be fighting this last war. And I think certain types of practices are going to change. But I hope that they keep the good bits of RTE. And I do think public service broadcasting, maybe not the monster that RTE and to a degree the BBC have become, where they're producing all these types of things and swamping some of the independent media, but whether they should focus on a kind of core group of programming, I hope it does survive it.
All right. So you haven't burnt anybody from this conversation? I know you were a bit worried coming in.
I'm sorry.
We were quite nice to you, weren't we?
No, that's.
We could have bullied you, especially when you're in the middle as well.
Could have gone way worse. Yeah, you like to put me in the middle, don't
We
you?
were kind of like we were on
Tag team.
Yeah, in a talent sandwich.
tag team.
Jesus.
Another one that needs to be.
I need to get out of here and shower.
Oh, shower, yeah. That's
Okay.
it. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.